Privacy is from my point of view, is the ability to select what you want to share with others, and not give it by default, but just the option to say I want to share something or not.
I think agency over life. Quick example. Social media is kind of destroying your attention and basically make money on you. And if they wouldn't own your data, they couldn't advertise on you. You cannot be a product. And in that sense, you can maybe concentrate on connecting with people, then friends, so-called, or instead of doom scrolling, you can make meaningful stuff. Or in privacy, instead of saying Big Brother is watching you, help builders, create conferences, write empowering content, and help projects to deliver code and promote whatever they're building.
I would say privacy is having the choice to disclose what you want to share of yourself. And in a way, like, that has been the norm of human history. Like, you had your own thoughts in your brain that you didn't have to share. No one was able to do analysis of what type of person you are at a deep level beyond human capacity. Like, we didn't have every interaction followed. We weren't geotagged throughout the world. So in a way, like, it's funny now that privacy has become controversial, because in reality, we're just going back to the entire history of humanity. So I would just summarize it as privacy is a human right.
As a moderator, I would propose us to skip privacy as a normal type of 101. There are many videos, there are many conversations why it's really important. And let's move more to practical things. So you both work on... that's interesting, because I would say that yes, within the privacy realm, but please unpack how practically you help people to get the privacy here and now instead of privacy promised land in the future.
From Logos' point of view, and particularly from Waku, what we do to enhance the privacy is to give the option to use protocols that enforces the privacy by themselves. And we know that privacy is a very sorry for using the word, but privacy is a very difficult concept and complex concept to achieve, and we are struggling to tackle this complexity ourselves and bring something simple to the users. And in our case, the complexity is in protocols such as Gossip's app and RLN. RLN is very important as well to protect the network and also in a private way. I would say this is the two tangible aspects that we have in the Waku set of protocols.
So again, I work at Matter Labs, who's the inventor and one of the core devs of zkSync now. So zkSync actually was supposed to start as a privacy project until the Alex has realized, oh shit, we actually need to scale this first, right? So we've been focusing for 5 years on actually scaling blockchain, and we're getting to that point where we can actually support that throughput. Privacy is still ingrained deeply in the team. It's really, really important to us. We don't want to create a dystopia where you go to a gas station and they see your entire transaction history. So actual solutions that we're implementing, like sometimes there's value in public data, right? So let's say, for example, you have a central bank. You need to, like, that could be a private or a public chain because you need to be able to track what the central bank is doing in the monetary supply. But then you can have hyperchains on top of that that are private, and each bank has its own private blockchain, right? In this way, even the central bank cannot view the currency or the transactions of the individual, right? They can issue a subpoena, and then the bank can release it exactly the way it's today with, you're already using digital currency, you just don't realize it. So Validium is the way that you can do that. Validium essentially offers enterprise-level privacy, where you can selectively disclose it. There are much further strides that we're gonna put a big effort into making sure that we can get these sort of ultimate consumer-level privacy solutions. There's other forms of privacy, like encrypted mempool. So your transactions can't be sandwiched or front run. Like, just privacy offers you the ability to not have money stolen from you when you make a transaction. I'm not a MEV maxi. Like, I really believe that it's wrong to take money from someone's pocket without them realizing it. So there's, like, those are two verticals that we're focusing on heavily, and there's many other forms of selective disclosure that you can do through zero-knowledge proofs, where you can show you're, like with Quark ID, you can show you're over a certain age without revealing your age. You can say you're a citizen that is not in a sanctioned country, but you don't have to say what country you're from. Like, there's a lot of things you can do with zero-knowledge proofs to really enable, like, a better version of what we have today. And we're working on those. It's not like theoretical anymore.
I represent an organization that's called Web3 Privacy Now. Basically, when people were asking me at ETH oh, what kind of protocol do you have? And I was happy to answer none, or like, because there's no token, nothing whatsoever. But we advocate for privacy in that sense that we are making events. We are trying to normalize the understanding what's private, what solution is private, what's not, through the aggregating the data about privacy features of across the market. Then we are building something like L2Bit for privacy, so you can visit the website and check if what's the stage of privacy in Waku, zkSync, and other solutions. And then maybe if you have a specific use case, like for example, I want to privately send the data or send information, this system could recommend you certain tooling, and also show you which tool is better for privacy or which is not, because many projects are faking privacy or using abstract marketing language that really obscure the end users. The same way that people thinking that, I don't know, sending Zcash is private by default or using Telegram is private by default. And here I would also say that Waku's main partner in sense of usage is Railgun, the project that Vitalik has been shilling lately. So on their side, there's also B2B collaboration and also empowering builders to experiment with the protocol, and in that sense, invent new features for the privacy messaging in that sense. And they're bullish on gaming industry. It's underdeveloped within the privacy features. And also on this side, Lumi has been giving many talks on privacy within different conferences. So I also would give a shout out to some sort of practical advocacy in parallel with tooling. And you said that privacy is hard or difficult. Can you mention, let's go one challenge by one, which big challenge you feel that exists at the market that makes you think that privacy is hard, and maybe give us some sort of solution or direction how we can solve it. And what's interesting, try to think in some sort of roadmap, like this year, in 5 years, because many privacy projects, when they say, oh, we will have privacy, they never specify when exactly. And then you wait for 1 year, one more year, and it's not there anymore.
Very good question. Thank you for the summary regarding Railgun.
I want a launch date. The exactly dates, April 15th, what are you doing?
Well, regarding why is complex privacy from the implementation point of view, from my point of view, the only way to really bring privacy to the society is by creating decentralized projects, decentralized networks, and every project that, for example, we started with Ethereum, but there are many centralized exchanges that there are many applications that in the end tend to be centralized, and these go very far from what privacy should be. And regarding the how to enhance this or how to tackle these complexities is by implementing decentralized networks and implementing consensus networks that can reach an agreement, a synchronization, and this is very, very difficult to make a golden truth of a certain state of the network that is shared across the whole nodes in the network. And this complexity is needed to be tackled by us, by engineers, and from the point of view of the users, the massive adoption will happen once we make the Web3 applications to be like Web2 applications, so that no the users don't need to understand complex concepts about Web3, blockchain, etc. Just to do a smooth introduction to the world. And also it's very, very complex, for example, for the users to deal with private keys and wallets, and it's some kind of difficult, and they tend to need an effort, and yeah, I think we need to enhance this user experience.
You add the roadmap.
So you're launching on. So we have Validium coming in probably around a month, right? I shouldn't have said that. There's very soon, TM, we have Validium coming. It's already in the main repo. We just need to, we handle upgrades really carefully because they need to be safe upgrades. And we put through everything, through a lot of audits. So that's immediate, right? But privacy is a spectrum, right? It's a lot easier doing privacy that's trusted, right? Trusting someone to keep your data safe, right? And this is most of the privacy we have today. When you have data in Google, you don't know their source code, right? If you have Google Drive, they say it's encrypted. You don't know what their source code is, so you're fully trusting them. The hard part is trustless privacy. That's where it gets really complex. And we have an internal saying of like trusted math, not validators, right? We don't want to, even in a decentralized setting, like that's already a place where validators could, for example, collude and reveal data of like let's say you have a storage solution where you store data on chain, but it's encrypted. The second quantum computers come out, all your data is public, right? So this is where it gets really, really hard, and this is where like you need some sort of self-custodial solution or where you choose to store your data, and then you make selective disclosure of these, for example, you're over X age, right? And that's where it starts becoming safer. And like zk was one of the best ways to do this, at least like FHE maybe in the future, but that doesn't give 15, 20 years, if that, in a scalable way. So zk is like the only real way that you can do this right now if you don't want to trust someone. Like SGX isn't a bad solution, but you do have to trust there's no zero-day vulnerabilities or Intel isn't compromised or they're not checking your data, right? So this is like, for example, let's say you have a completely private blockchain using zk. You can only do send transactions, like you cannot do shared state transactions like a Uniswap swap, right? Even if you could actually make Uniswap the contract private, Uniswap would stop working because you actually need the price oracles. And if there's if you can see the updates in price, you can manipulate, like do a couple swaps, see how the price is affected, and you can immediately decode how much liquidity there is. Or for staking, like let's say you claim a staking reward, then we know how much you've staked to get that staking reward. So this gets really, really complex the second you start doing anything with shared state. And that's where the fundamental underlying problems start coming up. And we started having good solutions like Aztec 3's like shared or private public model. That's not ideal either though, because you can still sort of start doing statistical like mapping of assets. But it's a massive jump forwards in anything we have in the real world. So anything that we can do from here forth is still a better solution than we already live in. And cryptography and blockchains are the thing that enables us to get there.
In many discussions around technical products, in some years there was a big shift on stopping calling people users and moving towards more humane way of saying like whatever human-centric design, like let's understand them as a complex human beings living in a complex geographies. I don't know, someone has a notebook, another has a cheap phone. There's a different technological savviness, especially with zkFHE and other technologies. And I was thinking like what would be your favorite personal stories that you heard around the market of people kind of like seeking or using right now privacy in Web3 and crypto that will go beyond just a user, but more like, hey, like a friend of mine used it for a specific reason and he used a specific tooling and that's how these tools help him here and now. And also not just thinking about privacy in the full stack because it's too challenging and too abstract at the moment. So I think that having those personal stories would help to understand how you can maybe apply it not just to yourself, but to your friends, to your family, or to your close colleagues.
Well, regarding applications, I've been suggested to use Brave as a browser, and I think it's a very cool idea because it's not it's somehow decentralized. I have this impression. Correct me if I'm wrong. And yeah, keeping the idea of the decentralization is very important. I think all the applications that are towards the decentralization are very, very useful from a privacy point of view. And also regarding the trustful projects, I think it's very important a project that is fully open source. For example, Telegram is open source, the client, but the servers, we don't know what they are doing. But yeah, I would say that I suggest to always follow permissionless projects and open source projects.
I kind of want to flip this around a little bit, right? We had a privacy event here in Barcelona, and this is a group of people that are all about privacy, right? And afterwards we had a round table, and that's actually something Adrian, wherever he is now, organized, where like we started talking about it, and someone asked like, how do we get people to choose privacy, right? So that's the flipping, is how do we get them to choose, like, I don't think that's the right way, is getting them to use a privacy application. The thing that I kept asking, like, do you use Instagram? Not encrypted. Do you use Telegram for crypto? Everyone raised their hand. Not encrypted. Like, if we can't get privacy people to choose privacy using VPNs every day, and even VPNs aren't private, like if we can't do that, we're not going to make any difference, right? People don't get out of bed to choose privacy unless they need to. And there's a lot of countries in the world where you need to, and it's much closer to home than people realize too. It's not just some like country somewhere far away that you don't understand. Like, the thing that we need to do is kind of like WhatsApp. We need to make privacy by default. And then it doesn't, and sorry for circling the question, but it doesn't create this situation of, I had a friend who used a privacy app and this is what they get. It's like, every one of my friends uses WhatsApp. There's nothing funny about that, but it's like, at least there's fucking adaptation of privacy when we make it the default option where users don't have to make the choice. And especially, like, I think this is a moral obligation for the world, but especially us in crypto and Web3, at least those of us that came in for the morals, and that's most of the crypto community, at least in the beginning, like sovereignty, decentralization, freedom. It's our moral responsibility to build these solutions with or without benefit to make sure that we can fucking make a difference. Like, we are the younger generation that's growing up that will be in government in the future. If we can't care, it's not gonna happen. If we do care, we can change the world to be, to some degree at least, private by default.
Then I will be the one adding stories. Everyone dodged them super quick. Like, for example, in Mexico, those are the journalists who are uncovering the crimes of the government because they could be basically killed. And if they need to send privately documentation or have a private messenger, they go really deep into researching what solutions are private, what are not. And this is one of the most sensitive issues. In the Ecuador, there could be indigenous people who could be harassed by some sort of even corporations because they want to steal their land, for example, and still those people are marginalized. They don't maybe speak English, but at least the Spanish language is quite spread out within the tooling, popular tooling, so they could use, for example, Signal or even Telegram with the specific chat settings. Then, for example, in India, it could be porn, whether we like it or not, but people use VPN for that reason, the same as in Middle East. In Ukraine, for example, within the military, they used Signal a lot, and they went out from Telegram. But irony is that you have your family in Telegram. So by observing the group chats, you can really kind of understand when people are, especially if they start sharing photo using their metadata, for example. And interesting, actually, there are interesting use case in Africa, like when people do airdrops or they do ambassador program in Nigeria, for example. If those funds are traceable, you can have a local crooks just coming into your home and basically stealing all your funds because they just can. And the government are not that protective in that sense. And also it would be hard for you to justify that you have this crypto non-tax. It's like a parallel economy, so it's kind of in that sense in danger. And then there are many, for example, domestic violence survivors who need a safe zone, like safe gated communities, like for example in Russia, and have a safe way to fundraise. So the other part won't be condemned as the foreign agents or illicit agents, and then your whole organization wouldn't be attacked by the government in that sense. Although you preserve the human rights or dignity on behalf of the vulnerable group. And I would push it a little harder, how your friends, family, you yourself, your colleague use privacy tools and for what reasons. And you go the same with the zkSync team, for example, and your friends.
Well, actually, in my closer circle, people don't actually care about privacy very much, and I have many friends that they use, for example, Siri, I think is the name, or one device that people put in the living room, and it listens to Alexa, and I feel super astonished when. People buy these expensive devices in order to violate their own privacy. In my friends and my family, not only they don't care about privacy, they foster the opposite in the opposite direction. They damage their own privacy, and they are super. Proud of having Alexa and being able to control the curtains from the, but,
so worth it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a huge issue because the services they are selling these kind of services which are super cool, but they hide a very big privacy challenge for society.
And when you talk with your colleagues from Logos or Waku, how they use privacy and which tools they were using?
Well, I think that they are more or less similar than me because, as you mentioned, Daniel, many people use WhatsApp, our friends and family, and somehow they are forced to use WhatsApp, and we only use status internally and something that related to the complexity that I mentioned. I personally think that we need to enhance this complex, simplify the entrance in the status app. That makes it a bit more difficult for my mother, for example, to use it. I don't know if I...
This is a concept that I want people to understand. Is privacy is not some paranoid dude sitting at home being like, I don't want my money tracked. It's like, it is fundamental to you using internet. If we didn't have HTTPS and TLS, internet would not work. period. You could never buy anything online. Like every video meeting you'd be in, anyone could drop into, right? You couldn't have any private files. Anyone could access your phone. That's all privacy, right? So it's not transaction level privacy, the only thing that you need to realize. And it's funny, again, that privacy's gotten a bad word. It's not a rebellious act. It's an act that enables many functionality and it enables your sovereignty and freedom, right? So we, like, at Matter Labs, we all use VPNs, not because we don't want someone watching our, like, transaction data or our internet browsing history, which also, like, you should use a VPN because right now your internet service provider is selling every single search you make. It's also for the fact that we need privacy from malicious actors on those networks. So anyone on an open Wi-Fi can try to inspect, like, your traffic, can try to hack you, can take, like, authorization keys. So we use a privacy tool, which just protects our security. Like, well, you do have to use Telegram, unfortunately. Telegram, can you fucking encrypt yourself? So there's a lot of things. Like, we have passwords on computers. We enable like encryption of the hard drives. These sound like really like silly things. These are fundamental things that every single person needs to do, and it's not even something you choose to do. It's by default, right? So next time, like, people say, I don't care about privacy, like, please try to think of the fact that it's so much more fundamental to your life than a paranoid act. Like, if anyone can watch you, anyone can do anything they want to, I guarantee you, if you realize that someone's just standing there following you around watching you, it'd make you a lot more uncomfortable than having a bunch of cameras in UK which do exactly the same thing.
It's interesting that basically we live in a post-COVID world and we pretend that it didn't happen and remote was always. And once I'll calculated the amount of messengers I'm using, there were like 7. One is from my mom, another when my mom reshares the photo of my daughter because she talks with my mother-in-law and vice versa. And it's just enormous. And maybe it's better for security reasons, because if you merge everything at once and once they could get broken, it will be a disaster. But on the other hand, the last year I worked in NIM and we were making all our operations in Matrix, basically a super secured communication tool. And then the issue there that today we mix messaging, group messaging and project management in one tool. And there are many kind of startups that try to tackle this reason because we cannot handle hundreds of groups at the same time. Even in one Web3 family group, there's a bombardment of notifications. It's really hard to cope up with them. And then you adding something private on top or saying, oh, one more tool. And then the people start get a bit frustrated. What's interesting also with those tools, that engagement rate usually decreases. So you take Telegram, super active, then you go Signal, for example, engagement rate drop down a lot, but security increased, then you go Metrics. Again, not many people are really communicating and helping building stuff, unless it's a small group, a small vulnerable group that work together every day, whatever, like Iran DAO, for example, something like that. And then they would cooperate much more easier, much more active in that sense. Let's go, for example, about, I won't dox one person who came into the room anymore. But I saw that many chats on privacy propel this kind of like doom-based communication, like we're all gonna die, government is chasing us again, they're stealing our data. And sometimes I was thinking, it would be really hard to live in a world when you're surrounded by notifications of we're all gonna die. And I was thinking, like, what would be the way of reversing this approach, especially when the market is a lot on the degens who like the positivistic and empowering communication. What would be your thoughts on kind of like how we should positively promote privacy? What would be the way of talking about privacy once lots of privacy projects are still doing black and white design, kind of Berlin type of techno culture?
You mean to the end users, or I think the easiest way to promote privacy is by telling users that is very important for them, and give an example of how they would feel if they lived in a house with transparent walls and I think this is the narrative that we need to share with colleagues, friends, and make them conscious about the importance of the data that we are sharing. But the difference of having a house with transparent walls and our smartphones or Alexa or whatever, the only difference is that this privacy access or this privacy break is evident in the house with transparent walls, but in Alexa is not evident for users, and the users don't see what the data is going on and what the governments or companies are selling our data, and then suddenly we receive mysterious calls or spam emails. I think the narrative would be to try to give an example that could be easier to understand, like for example the transparent house wall. Super nice example, maybe.
It's really easy to get apathetic in this world, right? Like, it seems like, what the fuck am I gonna do? You do your whole life, you try to do something, nothing changes, and it feels like there's so much against you that you can't do anything. Or rather, you just kind of like close down and don't do anything. So you don't have to change the world, right? You don't have to become the biggest privacy advocate. You can do something as little as make a single post about it on Twitter. Talk to a couple of friends every now and then. When the topic comes up, like call a government official, vote for someone that talks about privacy. Like, there's such tiny little actions that you can make on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't even have to be every day, once a month. And like, yeah, if you flap your wings like once, it's not going to make much of an effect. But when there's a lot of people doing small flaps, like, it becomes a butterfly effect. More and more and more of the world will care about it. And like, so my advice is do as much as you can. Like, as much as you're willing to put into it, don't just shut down and do anything and be like, this sucks, Facebook is using my data. I'm not even saying close Facebook. I'm just post about it, something, right? That's how, like, if enough people give a little bit of a shit, it becomes a big shit. And hopefully we can actually change the world with it. So that'd be my advice, like, use privacy protocols. If you're building privacy, come talk to us. We will promote the shit out of you. Like zkSync wants privacy. Let's not create a dystopia. Like, the smallest things, the biggest things you can do them. Don't just give up.
I don't remember exact quote by Assange, but basically privacy for us, transparency for them, meaning that it would be nice to have a transparent government, transparent corporations, and stuff like that. And now...
Tweet at Telegram, please. Privacy.
Yeah, and now we see that in 2017 people were preaching super on transparency on chain, saying like, hey, let's have a notary transparent on chain, everything transparent, government's transparent. And then once the corporations like Hyperledger plus IBM were selling private chains, native crypto people were like, no, that's not the real legit use of decentralized tech. That's your corporate continuation of the whatever you were doing, hyper-capitalism. And now we're in a situation when Validium will be launched, also privacy for corporations. We saw Polygon Nightfall project with Ernst & Young also serving or adding privacy to corporate stack. There's some lots of DeFi dudes who are trying to please the corporations with the privacy as well. How you would navigate the difference between privacy for people and privacy for corporations and governments within the decentralized stack?
Maybe I can start with the Validium part of, like, when I say enterprise level privacy, I don't mean corporate privacy. I mean, it's the same kind of privacy we have today with encryption, right? Or being stored somewhere else, someone else saying they're going to encrypt it. So you can actually build some really powerful applications on top of that. There are things that you can do with Validium that are actually beautiful that, unfortunately, I can't talk about all of them, but there are things that will massively protect users. That's all I wanted to add for the Validium part of like that is still better than having a completely public blockchain. Like, let's not pretend like everything public is okay. So it's progressive privacy. Not decent, okay, also decent. You know what I mean. And like, again, it's one of those do what you can. Like, if that's a step towards the right future, then do that and continue doing things over time.
Yeah, I think we will reach a great moment if the government and institutions they share or they use blockchain for the to share how they manage their the money that we pay every month, every year. I think this is very important and is crucial in this particular case. To be public, not be private, because it's something that all of us as citizens, we need to know where our money goes, and this should be by law from my point of view, and yes, and it's very important to keep track of the privacy, of the transactions that are going on in the government, investments, politicians, etc. And regarding the end users, I think we need to enforce the privacy for them, and as I mentioned earlier on, to bring decentralized applications, and yeah, I think this is the conclusion or the difference. For the government, it should be public, and it's a great tool, the blockchain, the Ethereum, but Ethereum or another blockchain. But for us, we need to have tools to bring privacy on the top of Ethereum, for example, which is very cool, and it's a great work that has been made so far. But we need projects such as zkSync or Railgun to bring privacy on the top of this technology for end users.
There's some like cool applications too that are already massively better. So you mentioned the transferring money and the trust assumption in that. So if a bank does a Validium, that's not the same as using a bank. You know for a fact they followed the rules that they said they'd follow, right? It's verifiable computation. You can run it over zk. When they send money to someone else, you know they're not just putting a magic value into their database or saying, we have $1 billion, cool, take our money. And this is literally how the finance world works right now. One bank sends another bank money, they're like, we swear we have this much money. And then there's a lot of legal entities separating their cash, so they actually have high risk of default, right? Like, this is what happened in 2008. Like, if you did that properly on a blockchain, even with a Validium, that could never happen, right? Because it needs to follow the rules of the game. Like identity, your government already knows you. Sorry, like they are the ones that give you the identity, right? So, but the difference that you can make is if you make attestations using zk from your identity, that random, you can make one KYC, and then every time you apply to for a blockchain or a bank or a car or this or that, you're not literally giving away all your information at once. They just get like a check. And that's already a massive change in how the world works. Now all these fucking random entities cannot sell your data and track you throughout the world. Like again, this goes back to like dream big but start small. Like there's really, really cool applications we can build today, and in the future, like this kind of cryptography wasn't possible before. That's why we don't have these also now in blockchain. They're getting there, and they're speeding up quickly. Turns out billions of dollars is a very good incentive to study zk. Like it's gonna grow quickly, and we can use this tech to move to a better world. I'm not saying the best world, but a better world.
Actually, I'm interested in, like, many people are coming to us and asking where should we start. We want to help with privacy. What would be your advices, like where a person could start even getting into the space, and how to be ensured that the person would stay and not just read, watch nice video talks and just go away to more cooler looking social media or nice and world of NFTs and use aspiration?
Well, in my opinion, I think people needs to have a strong willing to be part of the space because it requires an effort to to, uh, um, to learn concepts such as zero knowledge proof or cryptography. And by the way, in my humble opinion, I think these two concepts, zk and cryptography, are the biggest pillars of our society and in the space actually. And yeah, I think this would be the advice to study zero knowledge proof, how it works, and I think it's very interesting. And then from there start learning another projects and all the projects that are participating in this area. And I think it's especially important to, in order to learn, it's very important to learn by doing. And then I struggle everyone to participate in Hacker House, in events where people can implement a project from workshops, etc. I think it's very important to learn by doing.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what level you want to contribute at, but go to a meetup, go to a protest, like spend a little bit of time, like 15 minutes, an hour a day contributing to open source projects, like practice activism against Telegram, go private, like whatever ends up being. Like there's also for zero knowledge proofs, like yeah, it's like ridiculously hard, like PhD level mathematics. You don't need to know mathematics to write in zk. Like you don't need it for circuitry. Now there's higher level languages like Noir where you just write. It's very Rust-like. It's like just writing Rust, and then you have public and private inputs the same way that you learn encoding, and it's private. Like come build on zkSync with Validium mode. We'll make tools to make it really easy to selectively disclose data. Like the user has the choice to selectively disclose data. Like there's very, very small things and very, very big things that there's a massive spectrum. Again, don't just get crippled by it just because like I like privacy, but fuck, I have a job. Like, or whatever ends up being like, oh, but I'm working on a project. You can do little things as well. And then slowly maybe you get super into it and maybe it grows. If not, you just have beer with people at a local meetup, and that's cool too. Maybe you learn something.
About zk and complex tech, I was in Amsterdam on ETHDM, and I was like watching privacy and scalability explorations on Ethereum Foundation side talks, and then I understood they're all researchers and hardcore developers, and they pitch technology that is totally missing product side, cost dev side, people side, like what's the need, how you can use it now, a perspective in terms of what would be an MVP of the product using this technology. And generally speaking, that's happening with many protocols in the market. People are thinking that they will ship the technology and everyone will use it immediately. And then suddenly, oh, it's not working, the use cases are not there, or they're kind of a bit artificial and not really in demand of the people right now. And sometimes there's a big gap between the product side and technologically hardcore side. And then there's this book called The Stack. It was kind of like envisioned as like, let's think of the internet, the earth, and then the stack of everything. Now it's a bit naive in a way, how we see the governments operates, internet operates. But I would ask you to imagine the private stack. What could be the core components of such stack that we need to kind of achieve?
Do you mean regarding technically?
But I would say here more like the internet as a whole, and then the role of decentralization in it, and then the private parts in it. Like try to imagine this like a bigger concept of, hey, we reached private internet, it's powered by Web3, and there's underlying the cool technologies and what could be the core components, like for example, you can say messaging should be private, such like that.
Yeah, indeed. Messaging is a very good example. What should be private, but not only that. The data storage is very important as well, and also I think in the trinity that we are normally talking is consensus, data storage, and messaging, but I think it's very important to have a database, a decentralized database solution. I think projects like that are very important. And once we have these 4 layers, we can say that we are very close to have a private internet. And again, by a private internet, I mean something that is fully decentralized and is given and managed by the community and not by big tech companies or individuals.
So this was specific to blockchain context or in general, because there's a lot of things we need to make private, like or do better at, make laws around. For blockchain, cross-chain communication, encrypted mempools, user data, especially if there's user data, like you have to make it where, like, instead of don't be evil, so you have to make it where they can't be evil. There's many different parts of the stack, like discovery of validator nodes, like the IP gives it away. Like there's so many parts of this stack also for RPC level, for other things that need work on this. We are working at Matter Labs on all of these, by the way. Like we are actively working on them because we refuse to live in a dystopia. But this is, you can make the change that, like, I would encourage anyone building a protocol, at least you, make it private, or do some steps in making it private. Like, because the more pieces we get, the more eyes we get on how to do like random leader election, like actually random, the more the space actually benefits. And there's a lot of morally enabled people in this space that want that, either for moral reasons or selfish reasons, or because maybe if there's not MEV on your blockchain does better. Like whatever ends up being, like there's a lot of different pieces that need to, like, most of them need some layer of privacy, and we need to work on these.
And quickly, because the role of the hackers is really important at the market, like you are also saying, come and build. And I know that Waku is super interested in hackers coming and building. And I was judging recently in Amsterdam, and there's one guy coming and saying, I want my mom to have a private voting. And he was connecting project by privacy and scaling exploration, something like Bandada for voting and community things anonymously, decision making. And then connecting with Near, because Near has kind of like seamless ID on chain without private key complex management system. He was a bit naive on how voting works on the government level, because, I mean, never. But still, it's interesting. What would be your use cases that you would recommend builders to work on this year, not in the future, that is kind of tangible to achieve?
Do you mean in Waku or in general?
Waku in general.
Yeah, I think. For example, wallet communication, or for example, the transactions that are, or the interactions with blockchains, they are pretty expensive. Implementing some off-chain communication could be very helpful for these applications and projects to do the same, but in a cheaper way for the users. And yeah, I would recommend from the point of view of Waku, anything that your project or your idea, you want to communicate human to human or machine to machine in a private way, in a real and tangible private way, then use Waku for that. Yeah, I think almost everything, but streaming, I would say, because yeah, for us it's very important the privacy. I would say is the biggest or the major asset in logos and in Waku particularly, and we enforce privacy in front of bandwidth, for example.
The question was realistic to implement.
We are out of time, but you will...
Even better.
Big week. Several specific use cases for builders.
Wallets. If you have an RPC provider and you don't have a light client, please, for the love of God, integrate something like NIM or Hopper. Like, start researching, start working on encrypted mempools. Things that are realistic in short term, I'm talking about right now. So, by the way, like, this is not something that's hard to do at all. Start using the lithium chains. You think of how to do that, how to use that to at least protect your users more. Start pushing identity solution. Again, we're working with Quark ID in Argentina. Like, that identity solution is out, and it's going to be widely distributed to 40 million people. Like, build things around identity. These are not pipe dreams. Like, these are happening now. Except the wallet things and other things. Like, please make these decisions for users.
Thanks, Daniel and Ivan, for promoting privacy. Thanks, Adrian and everyone in the room. And don't hesitate to come to the guys. They will help you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.